Hello there, it's Carrie Rhodes here. Welcome back to my YouTube channel and a new card making video. Today I'm excited to be sharing with you the Trinity Stamps stamp set for Stamptember at Simon Says Stamp. This is the Sledding Gnomes set. You can see there are two gnomes on a sled. They're the star of the show, but there's also a little reindeer, some trees, and several sentiments. And they coordinate really well with some brand new products from Trinity Stamps, the North Pole Gnomes and the Coco, the gnome stamp set. There's also some other gnomes in the release at Trinity Stamps that hits the shop today, so you're going to want to check that out also. Okay, we are going to stamp out some images and make a full panel slimline shaker card. I've stamped all the images from the sledding gnomes, and I'm going to take out the two reindeer from the North Pole gnomes that are in the Trinity Stamps new holiday release. So I've got the reindeer facing both ways, and then there's also one sitting down. Now it's time to color out all the things. I'm using Cool Gray #2 marker as the darkest color on my gnome's beard, and then I'm going to soften that out with Cool Gray 0, C0, and that is going to give me a nice shadow on the outside and have the center of this be a little bit lighter so it looks very light gray or even white. And then for the second gnome, I'm going to color his beard a little bit darker, but using the same C markers, just I'll bring in another tone. So for the skin, I have E13 and E11 as my lightest, and then for his hat, I am doing BG49 as my darkest color and putting down my shadow layer first, and that part is going to really help define the hat. Then I have the BG45 as my lightest color, and I am just kind of starting where the darkest color is and making that line or that area bigger until I get to the middle. And then I can go back over it if I want to really make things a little bit more vibrant and darker. And then it's time for the sled itself. So C2 and C0 again for the rails of the sled. I'm trying to really create a nice highlight on that, and so I decided to come in with some C6, which is my darkest gray marker here, and then blend that out with the C2. That way I could get a really contrasting highlight, which I feel helps make them look a little bit more shiny like metal. And by the way, these are the markers I'm going to use on my second gnome's beard. Then I'm using E15, E13, and E18, I believe, for the sled itself. And I'm just adding a little bit of lines here and there to help it look a little bit more like wood grain, and I think that that does the trick, just a few lines here and there. All right, so the sled is looking great. On to gnome #2. I am giving that one a pink hat. I have RV23 as my darkest color, where I'm putting in those shadows and those lines to define the hat, and then RV02 as my lightest. I really love this light pink. You can still see those definition lines really well with that light color. On to the trees, I am using BG32. I wanted kind of a minty green for these, so that's why I chose the markers that I'm using. G02 is my mid-tone and G03 as my darkest, and then I'll go back and blend those out a little bit more with my mid-tone and my lightest color one more time. And I think the trees are so much fun in this light color. I am going to use the same colors as I used for the sled to do the trunk. Now on two of these trees, they have rocks underneath, and on this one that I'm coloring, it looks a little bit more like a bush, so I colored that one green. On to the reindeer, I am using the same brown colors. I kind of like to make things look really matchy when I color them out, so that's why you see me repeatedly using the same cool grays, the same E markers. I just really like that look. Of course, sometimes it does call for like a darker shade or a lighter shade, but I mostly like my stuff really matchy. So E11 is my lightest color here. I did use some E40 on their antlers, which I didn't show, just to give them a little bit of a shadow. And then I'm using those same cool gray markers. I even brought in C8 for the darkest color, and I'm just blending those out a little bit there. I was able to die cut out these images and set them aside to build my scene. So this is the new etched slimline Hills and Slopes. Yeah, die set, also new from Trinity Stamps, and I'm going to create my scene using this die right here. When you die cut this, the side that you're like supposed to use has an etched line in it, which is really cool, but I decided I'm actually going to use both sides, flipping one of them over, and then I've got this double layered hill look. To enhance these even more, I'm taking a little bit of Sea Breeze ink from Altenew and my Blending Buddy brush from Trinity Stamps and adding just a dusting of color on the edge of those hills. That way they can, stand out from each other a little bit better. And I just like the definition that it gives them. So I've got both of those done. I laid out my images just to kind of figure out where I wanted things to go so I could stamp my sentiment, which says holidays are more fun with friends. I absolutely love that. Okay, we have some snowflakes here that you can hot foil and die cut out, new from Trinity Stamps. I'm also sharing several of the things from their latest release because it goes so well with this card, and I love to play with new things. So I'm going to hot foil some snowflakes in the sky to help build up this scene. Now, because it's slimline, I'm only doing a portion of the card right now, and then I'll go back and add one more in that bottom corner. And I am using some kind of teal foil that has an iridescent finish. I thought this was really pretty for the color scheme that I chose to do, and I'm just doing little squares of foil behind each snowflake rather than doing a large piece, because then I might risk getting some overfoiling. All right, so I'm flipping that over and I will put the plates on top, push the timer, then you remove the entire dock and run it through the die machine, and the pressure and the heat help transfer those snowflakes into the paper. They press into the paper just a little bit, and I love how that looks. So here you can see the snowflakes with their iridescent teal shine. Love it. So yeah, I'll do one more in this corner, and then I've got some fun snowflakes in the sky. But this is also going to be a shaker, so I didn't feel like I needed a ton of them. Now, to give a little bit more of a snowy look, I brought in my Winterberry Distress Mica Spray Stain. I just put a little bit onto this window sheet, and then I'm flicking it onto the paper for a really fine mist of pink snow in the sky. I really love to play with different colors for snow, and I think pink is always a good one. I love pink and kind of turquoise, or that minty green. I love that color combination for Christmas. You'll see me use it a lot this year. All right, so now I have my hill in place. That's my hill that goes in the back, and I'm just going to add on a few things that are going to be inside my slimline shaker pocket. So 2 of the trees will go here on this hill. I love having trees in the set that helps you build out a little scene. All right, these are the shaker pockets. They're 3.5 by 8.5 from Trinity Stamps. So this is a full panel shaker. I am, however, going to create a layer behind it. So we'll talk about that when we get to that part. There is a protective film on this. So I just use my pickup tool and kind of scrape it to get the corner to come up, and I always do that on the flap that's not going to be seen. Speaking of the flaps, I like to use my Teflon crease tool to fold these back before I start building my slimline. So I did that on all 4 sides, and now I'm going to add some more of this scene onto the front of this pocket. Does this ever happen to you with your adhesive? Oh my goodness, I am such a fan of liquid adhesive. I use it a lot, but when I am sticking things down onto a window sheet, I like to have both tape runner and liquid glue. You could probably just do tape runner, but I don't like things to pop up, so I tend to do both. So I've glued my hill in place, and then I can add the rest of my scene. I need to add my little sledding gnomes, and they are going to be halfway on the cardstock and halfway on the window sheet. So I'm using some rip and stick tape for that, as well as the liquid glue, and that's going to ensure that it stays right where I want it to go, which is sledding down this hill. They look so cute. There's little lines there that help them look like they're in motion, and that makes me so happy. It's just so cute. All right, I'm adding on the reindeer, which, let's be honest, they totally steal the show, right? They're so cute, little gnome reindeer with their hat covering their eyes. And I love that I have a deer facing each way because I have that North Pole gnomes set. And then this little guy who's sitting, I made him look like he's kind of sliding backwards down the hill, and that just adds just a touch of whimsy to the card that makes me smile. All right, now we're going to put this all together. So I'm taking my background, turning it over, and adding my rip and stick tape to the back of that on all 4 sides. This is an important tool that you need for making full panel shakers is double stick tape. It works the best. So on all 4 sides there, and then I'm going to remove the backing, but only on 3 sides. We need to leave one end open, and that is where we're going to add our shaker bits. The one end that we leave open is going to be the entrance for our shaker bits. And I like to do, especially on my slimline, I like to do the 2 longest sides first, and then one of the end pieces, and leave the opposite end open. It just makes more sense to me to have those big flaps sealed off, and it's just something I've kind of learned as I make a ton of shakers. If you love shakers, you should totally check out my Facebook page, Stamping or Shaker Card Addicts, and then you can see lots of different people's shaker cards. And usually people, if they have a video, they leave a link there so you can go check out videos and see how people are making shaker cards. It's really cool. All right, so for my shaker mix, I added some snowfall confetti, that is those flat back kind of crimped edge confetti pieces, as well as some distress mica flakes. So that is kind of a lot of shaker bits, which I don't mind because it's such a big card. You kind of need a lot, and I love to make my own little mixes like this. So you can see I'm now sealing off that final end piece, that opening, and then we have our shaker ready to go. Isn't it so cool? I love that the shaker bits can hide there behind the hill, and then when you shake it, they're revealed. All right, back to the rip and stick tape. We're using this to cover up those flaps and help to seal them down to the paper so they're not going to pop off later. I did that on all 4 sides, and then a strip down the middle. And now here's my card base, which is 8 3/4 by 7.5. Scored at 3 3/4. That's going to allow me to have a border all the way around my full panel slimline, and it's still going to fit in a business sized envelope. It's not going to be too big for that. If you buy slimline card envelopes from stamp companies, your envelope might be a little bit too small. Of course, you can always make your own envelopes, so whatever is going to work for your size of card. So you can see I added a little liquid glue to help hold this down, and it's really nice because then I could pick it up when it wasn't quite on straight. Yeah, so there's my slimline shaker, but I felt like I just needed a little bit more wintry goodness. So I have these winter snowflakes. They're clay bits that are kind of frosty with a bluish snowflake like inside of the clay. It's really cool, and it's the perfect color for my card. So I decided to add those to the outside and really enhance the snowflake look when the shaker bits are settled down at the bottom. So there you go. Added those on with my pickup stick, and they look so good. Not too busy, kind of subtle, those snowflakes. So there it is, shaking around. I love a shaker card. I think they're my favorite card to make. All right, so we're going to now make a coordinating shaker tag using this Sledding Gnomes set. So here's some more shaker pouches from Trinity Stamps. There are 3 different size circles. You can get them in a variety pack, or you can buy the sizes individual. So I'm going to take the largest one, which is 4 1/4 big. These are really fun if you want to make a circle shaped card, which you could do by cutting your cardstock with a circle on the scored line. So part of the circle overlaps the scored line and creates a hinge. But I am going to make a tag. So I just need to cut a circle that's going to be my background, and I am cutting it with this forest background set. It is so cute and whimsical, and I think it makes a great background for this sledding scene. I'm going to stamp it with some white pigment ink here onto this soft turquoise panel, and that is going to give me a nice background for my little miniature card, or tag scene rather, and I am going to emboss this. You could just let it dry white, but I thought it would be fun to give it a little embossing with my frosted crystal. So this really looks like snow when you emboss it. It's not the typical embossing powder that's going to be like raised up and shiny. This one is a lot more subtle. So therefore, when you heat set it, you have to really be careful, because normally when you're heat setting your embossing powder, it's going to get raised up and shiny. This doesn't really do that. It still kind of looks the same. So you got to turn it in the light. You got to be really careful so you don't like singe your paper or melt the powder into the paper, then it's not raised up at all. But to give this a little bit more interest, now that that's embossed, I'm adding some more of that Sea Breeze ink just right around the edge. So I'll have a center highlight, and then the edges are a little bit darker. It helps those trees pop a little bit. I have another slope here from that same Hills and Slopes die set, and I'm going to just use part of it on this circle to create a place for my sledding gnomes. So it's going to be very angled downhill, and I'm going to put the glue right on the circle, add that layer over the top, and then I can just cut right around it. Now, I did get this up a little bit high. You'll see when I cut off the excess, I have a little flat spot, but it's not really going to matter because I'm going to have shaker bits inside of this that will rest there and cover it up, and I'm going to add something super fun around the outside. You'll see. Okay, so now it's time to add our stamped images. I'm going to do the sledding gnomes and the smallest tree for this tag, and here they are colored up. Now, I added a ton of white gel pen dots to this to help it look like the snow is like sticking to them. I thought that was really cute. So I'm going to glue this down, not pop it up because it's a shaker and it's going to be on the inside of the shaker. I thought it's better to have it glued down flat. So I'll have them come zooming down the hill, and then I'll add on the tree at the top for just a little bit more scenery there. It's very cute. All right, then we're going to bring in the rip and stick sheets to add to the back of this. It's a lot easier covering the whole entire back of this than it is to put adhesive on each of the little flaps of the circle shaker pouch. You'll see what I mean in just a second. So I'll add that, sticking it down. I just use the same exact circle die, and then the pocket itself, the shaker pocket, has all these tiny little flaps, which is how you can do a circle shaker. But think about putting like adhesive on each one of those. No, not good. So adding that adhesive to the back of the circle is really the easiest way to do this. So now I have pre-folded my little flaps, and I can go ahead and just come in and press them down onto that adhesive circle. It's so easy. I do like to kind of work one side and then the other instead of going around fully in a circle, because I feel like if I just do one side, it can kind of push it over to the other side, and then it's not as centered onto that pocket as I'd like. You do want to leave a little space open so you can add your shaker bits, and for this tag, I'm going to use the same shaker bits that I used on my card. So I've got those snowfall confetti bits and my mica flakes. I don't need quite as much because it's a lot smaller, and then I can just use my tidy tray to tap those right into the shaker, turn it over, and secure the rest of those little tiny flaps. And now I know the back is, super adhesive, but you want to mount this onto something anyway. So this is where you could mount it onto a folded in half circle, or you can put just a plain circle because it's a tag. I'm going to go a couple sizes up on my tag so I can put a darker color around it, and that is going to create a nice frame for this. And again, the back is already adhesive, so you can really just stick it down. Before I do that, I want to turn this into a tag using this tiny tag set, new from Trinity Stamps. It has this little piece right here that you can use to turn anything into a tag. Now it's really tiny because these are tiny tags, but I thought it might work for this. So you just want to bend it in half. I did help curl it a little bit so it would go a little bit easier. And then you just glue those two little circle end pieces together or on either side of your cardstock. But I'm gluing mine together, and I'm going to put it behind my shaker, and I am sticking it down to where there is adhesive, but also those little flaps. So I added liquid glue. I'm going to hold that in place for a minute, and you can see it's kind of settle. It kind of disappears like magic. And then I need a little bit of adhesive on those little tabs so it sticks down. So I'll add liquid adhesive on that, and I've touched this a lot of times, so some liquid glue is going to be helpful also for positioning. So we'll stick that in place, and I love the white border or the colorful border all the way around. And now it's time for a sentiment. So I die cut another of those tags and stamped Warm Winter Wishes from the stamp set, the Sledding Snowman stamp set. I also hot foiled the tiniest snowflake from that snowflake set and made a little tag out of that, so I could have a double tag on top of my tag. Next, I have some glaze here. I'm going to go around the entire edge of this tag where it meets that frame, and then add some mica flakes. So it's going to be super snowy all the way around. Glitter would also look amazing right here, but since I had the mica flakes on the inside, I really wanted to put those on. I think it's just really a fun added touch, and that glaze is going to hold them on there really well. So I let that dry for quite some time, just left it and came back a little bit later, and there I've got a beautiful snowy tag. I did want to add a little something cute to the back, so I'm bringing in Coco the gnome. See how cute he is with his little penguin mug? I'm going to glue that right to the back, and then I have room still to write my to and from or whatever I want to add there when the time is right, and that finishes up my shaker tag. It's so snowy and fun. I really think this stamp set is adorable. I love the sledding gnomes, and the reindeer just make the scene. So I am thrilled that Trinity Stamps has a STAMPtember set and that I got to share it with you. I will have all the things linked below so you can check them out. If the Trinity Stamps links are not active yet, it's because this video is coming out slightly before the Trinity release, just a couple hours. So if you're watching this right when it comes out and the links aren't working for you, just check back shortly. They will be up in the shop very soon. Thanks so much for watching. I will be back again soon with a new video. So if you're new here, feel free to subscribe, and I will see you all then. Happy stamping! Bye!